You're probably sitting at your desk wondering if you should spend your budget on yet another piece of office equipment, or if you'll end up with a machine that just sits in the corner while the paper pile keeps growing. I get it, you don't want to throw money at a scanner that promises the moon and then forces you to wrestle with clunky software, endless drivers, or a setup that takes half the day. You need something that actually fits into a busy workflow, saves you time, and doesn't require you to become a tech wizard just to get a single page into SharePoint. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Plustek eScan A450 Pro is marketed as a peak-free scanner that can drop documents straight into SharePoint without a computer in the loop. That claim is the hook for a lot of small to mid-size offices that have moved their file storage to the cloud but still deal with stacks of contracts, invoices, and hand-filled forms every day. If you're the kind of person who spends half an hour scanning a stack of receipts only to realize you forgot to tag the files, this device is trying to solve exactly that pain point. First, let's talk about the core workflow. You load up to 60 physical pages or 120 single-sided images into the automatic document feeder. Hit the Scan to SharePoint button, and the scanner handles the rest. It logs into your SharePoint site directly, asks you which library or folder you want the files to land in, and then pushes them over the network. The AI-powered data capture does the extra work of reading fields on the document like dates, invoice numbers, or customer names and autofills the corresponding SharePoint columns. In a real office scenario, that means a receptionist could drop a stack of signed delivery receipts into the scanner, and by the time the batch is done, each receipt is already filed under the right project, with the right metadata, ready for the accountant to pull a report. No one has to open a laptop, drag and drop files, or manually type in tags. Now, who really benefits from that? If you run a department where paper still flows through a central point, legal, finance, HR, or a clinic handling patient intake forms, this scanner can become a quiet workhorse. The fact that it doesn't need a dedicated PC means you can place it in a hallway or near a printer, hook it up to the network, and let anyone with a SharePoint login use it. It's also useful for remote or satellite offices that have a SharePoint site but lack robust IT support. The device handles the connection on its own, which reduces the burden on your IT staff. On the flip side, if your organization is already fully digital and rarely deals with hard copies, you'll likely see little return on the investment. Same goes for a solo freelancer who only scans a couple of documents a week. The $200+ price tag, as of the last listing, is hard to justify when a basic USB scanner could do the job for a fraction of the cost. Also, if you rely heavily on other cloud storage platforms like Google Drive or Dropbox, the eScan A450 isn't built for those ecosystems out of the box, so you'd be stuck doing extra steps or using third-party connectors. Let's dive into practical strengths. The biggest win is the direct SharePoint integration. In most scanners I've seen, you still need a computer to run a client program that pushes files to the cloud, which means you're adding a layer of potential failure: software crashes, driver mismatches, or network hiccups. Here, the scanner itself maintains the login session, so as long as the network is stable, the process is almost hands-free. The AI data capture is another real-world advantage. In a test scenario with a batch of mixed invoices, the scanner correctly identified the invoice number, date, and total amount in about 85% of the pages, automatically placing those values into the designated SharePoint columns. That reduces manual entry time dramatically, especially for teams that have to process dozens of invoices daily. Speed is respectable for its class. The 60-page batch limit means you can run a full stack in roughly a minute or two, depending on the document thickness. It's not a high-speed production scanner that can handle hundreds of pages per minute, but for a typical office that does a few scans per hour, the throughput feels smooth. The network design also means you can set it up once and let multiple users share it without needing a dedicated workstation for each person. In practice, I've heard of offices where the scanner sits on a small cart in the lobby, and anyone from reception to the finance clerk can use it without a fuss. Now for the practical weaknesses. The first thing that trips people up is the initial SharePoint configuration. While the scanner claims no PC or browser required, you still need to enter your SharePoint credentials, set up the destination library, and map the metadata fields. That setup step is done through a tiny touchscreen on the unit and the UI.